everybody. Welcome to FEI Freight Executive Insights. As always, I am not the executive with the insights, but I do have one here. His name is Scott Elder, and he's founder, CEO, and president of a company, and it's just coincidental that it has the exact same name, Elder Logistics, right? I mean, you didn't plan that.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for being on the show, man. What's going on, brother?
Oh, not much. I mean, just kind of, getting my arms around things on the day off. Being in my role, you kind of never can be mentally off 100%. It can be kind of tough, especially with how things are going as of late. I mean, it's no secret. So.
Yeah, no, you feel you have to put in some effort every single day, right? I mean, you have to, and that's just me too. Is that a, and we'll get into all that kind of stuff. Tell us about you. Tell us about Elder. Who is Elder Logistics, and why should people care about Elder Logistics? What do you guys do?
Well, I don't know why they should care about it, but we'll leave that up to their determination. So What do we do as a company? We are a company that employs around 200 to 215 people, depending on, how busy the season is or not. And we are a full service trucking and logistics company that, kind of operates in 4 or 5 different silos. A lot of companies our size would be, strictly a dry van OTR company, or maybe an OTR company that runs a couple different equipment types. But we actually have we have some condos. We definitely run I would say about 20 condos. We have a slew of day cabs, a few Class B trucks, and a whole little army of Class C non-CDL box trucks. And we also have 5 locations that we actually, run operations out of.
Where is that region at?
So right now I'm sitting in our little corporate office in downtown Puyallup, Washington. It's one of those places where you'll never be able to pronounce it right unless you're from here, right?
Isn't it? I thought it was pronounced Puyallup.
Yeah, everyone does. No worries. But it's coincidentally the city where I live, and our terminal in the area used to also be in Puyallup, just down the street, but kind of outgrew that, and the situation changed there with a sublease. So it was time to move. And so our building up here is in Tacoma, in what we call the Tide Flats area, which is where the port is. All the huge ships get, the containers loaded and unloaded and so on and so forth. And we also have a terminal in Portland, Oregon, down on Swan Island. We're in Reno, Nevada. Right next to the elbow of 80 and 580. And we have a terminal in Salt Lake City, which we've recently opened up, as well as a small, it'll seem non sequitur, but it makes sense for one of our silos, a small consolidation operation in Morganton, North Carolina, where we consolidate LTL loads of furniture.
Oh, and then skip it out to the PNW and then distribute through the PNW. No, that makes perfect sense.
To be in our buildings. Yeah.
No, that's a perfect setup. I did floor covering at Express Global Systems. We had warehouses all over the country. We just did floor covering. So and most of that comes out of Northwest Georgia, if you don't know. And most people, if you've bought any furniture and figured out the secret, it all comes from the Carolinas. So.
All the expensive furniture. Now
the expensive stuff. IKEA's not coming from North Carolina, but the expensive stuff is for sure. But it lends itself to a lot of we used to zone skipping type of stuff, pool distribution type of thing and stuff, because it's LTL shipments that do not fit in LTL. You don't want to be shipping furniture through LTL. It's just a bad move, right?
And they don't want it. As a matter of fact, we also work with pretty much all of the big 9 and then some LTL wise in some way, shape, or form in one of our markets or another, right? So whether it's overflow or kind of interline beyond point work, that's really the crux of what we do in Reno, for instance.
Yeah.
Nobody knows Elko more than us.
Yeah. I mean, you're doing all the, so you're doing all the dash codes LTL. You'd have like your terminals, like 204 was mine, and one of mine in Altoona, and you had 204, 204-1, -2, -3, -4. Those second, third, fifth day service locations, cartage type of stuff. You do a lot of that type of stuff.
Oh,
Right?
well, yeah, especially out of Reno. I mean, and as a matter of fact, we're pretty prideful of this. Like Reno, Elko, and Winnemucca, and Battle Mountain, and all that stuff. That's like a next day point for us.
Oh, wow.
We're there every day. And I mean, especially you can imagine now with all the mining that's taking place in northern Nevada. That's a huge deal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's all about that density, right? So that's where you guys kind of fit in. And when I look at but I picture the combination of where you guys are located, right, and then the equipment that you guys have. It's fairly obvious that I mean, with your size, where you're located in a different part, you can consolidate and get that density of different types of shipments that don't quite fit into the other stuff, right? Is that kind of what we're looking at here? That's not the official business plan, but it sure sounds like it.
Yeah, it's definitely one of our things. So we also we have a division where we just flat out run over the road trucks too. And
Okay.
And really, so the interesting thing is we do not substantially connect line haul between our terminals. We don't really go looking for base customer LTL shippers, because frankly, all of our customers do such a good job of having giant black books of business. You take any of the big nine and they have a customer list of 35,000 shippers. Like, it would take me, 15 lifetimes to get to that point, so
Sure.
And especially in a consolidated area. But the interesting perspective we have with the LTL side is we see how all of them operate intrinsically, right? Like we're kind of their right hand guys. We try to add value to them too, to try to help them as much as possible. Stay efficient and stay current. But it's interesting how they all approach business a little differently. In that realm. And then as far as the furniture consolidation, to your point about weird freight fitting in, that becomes our choke point, is really training our dock staff to appropriately load furniture with some general freight, because within the furniture realm, no one will hit the beyond points better than us. Like when we have trucks in Port Angeles, Washington every day. And if you look at the siloed furniture only stop truck type carriers, it used to be they would have terminals in the area, but they don't anymore. Those guys are going to take weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks to get to Port Angeles, just because there's not density. But we work with some LTLs that give us business out there, and there's a Home Depot out there, so we're going to be there every day, and we just add the furniture and deal with the choke point or the pain point, I should say, of teaching the dock staff how to secure and load that freight, with a little bit more caution to where they understand how it needs to move appropriately.
Yeah, that incremental freight can be great, and what you've done is really that choke point has caused you to be an expert in moving furniture, right? I mean, and that's what they're looking for, is that the furniture haulers, right, or the furniture companies for delivery, is getting it across in a dry van, a single truckload, and then that expertise at the other end of breaking it down. And not to dwell on the furniture too much, but I mean, that's pretty much your business model across the board. And then you have some other, you got a significant, just straight up dry van, long haul moves, right?
Yeah. We kind of, I would say we run like Western 5 or 6 with that.
Okay, cool.
We have we have a partnership with a Canadian carrier out of Ontario where we consolidate and build loads here in Tacoma and Portland, and then send our OTR guys just to a predetermined middle of the country location and meet them with their loads, swap boxes, and go back, and then blow it out and rinse and repeat. So we do a little bit of that too, with our OTR crew. So it kind of is self-serving, and that's definitely more of the realm I would like to get into, because we do have the ability to pick up a truckload of stuff, take it to Tacoma, and then deliver it en masse to residentials, which is, it's kind of unusual for people, in our realm to be able to do that. So that's definitely one of our sales point. That, and we do a little bit of flat out retail pool distribution too. I heard you mention that.
Yeah. Retail pool. That's cool. Do you do any breaking down inside the case, or just straight up full breaking down pallets type of distribution in the pool distribution?
It varies. So one of our customers comes in pre-palletized, black wrapped. It's pretty high value per pallet, and so we don't really mess with it. It really just behaves like hyper time critical appointment wise LTL.
Yeah.
And that comes in every day, and we make it work. And if you have a wife or a daughter, they've heard of the company, I'm sure. But
I got you. Yeah.
And then we actually have another account that deals with a passion that it looks like both you and I have based on looking behind you.
So, yeah, I was going to say we can get into if you're hauling for this particular industry of music, but I was going to say, in my career I've run across a lot of beards, and usually when I see one of this magnitude, of this beauty, it's associated with, it has to be number one, trucking or music or both, and yours is exuding the power of both, right? Am I right there?
100%.
100%. So what are you playing? You like a Taylor Swift cover band? Is that what it is?
No, So I actually, however, maybe we can, blues rockify a Taylor Swift song, or with my other band, turn it into a reggae song. Which
so you're a reggae man. I got my Marley right here, bro.
So yeah, I play in a reggae. It's a real fun, lighthearted band, a reggae band called Get Lifted. I know it's hilarious, but it's just a bunch of great musicians. We don't honestly have a lot of time to rehearse. The singer and keyboard player is a pro. He plays like 5 nights a week in any empty corner of any establishment in the area. He's the busiest musician I've ever seen. Gotcha. And so it's just a matter of, okay, here's the lyrics and the key, and this is just a 1/4 in G minor, and let's roll. And it just becomes, really on the funky side, and just really has a nice, loose, jammy interplay feel to it. That's that band. And then I also play in an original rock band called Sons of the Force. And,
all right. Okay.
And it frankly, the best way I can describe it is it's definitely original, but it sounds like it could have happened in 1978.
So my immediate reaction was the Gods. Remember, the Gods are rock and roll machines. The Gods are rock and roll machines, and that's kind of what I heard. Sons of the Force. I was like, okay, it's kind of like the Gods are rock and roll. GODZ, the Gods.
It actually doesn't have anything to do with Star Wars. Everyone, even though we get invited to May the 4th gig, and it's a reference to the drummer of the band's dad's nickname.
His nickname was what? The Force?
His nickname was the Force because he was kind of a surly old dude. Back when we were kids, we would rehearse at his house, and we would never pick up after ourselves. And so, he used to make speaker enclosures, and his little brand was called Gale Force, because
nice.
Pushing wind. And so our nickname of his was the Force, because he would come in and just kind of lose his mind, because we were 18-year-olds that didn't know how to roll chords up, And so when we started a band in our adulthood, we decided to call it Sons of the Force,
Yeah, no, I love it. Was he like the Red Foreman of the group? Or what?
A little bit, but he was Red Foreman that could play a pretty mean Chuck Berry lick. So
oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool. I love it, man. I love. We'll have to jam sometime, man.
Yeah.
So there's my very good friend John Brewer, who is head of logistics for CKR restaurants. All right, like Carl's and Hardee's and all that other kind of stuff. He writes the lyrics for parody songs, and I do all the music and singing behind them. We produce different songs, like all trucking tunes, right? So
That's
Instead of one
awesome.
love, it's we did one load instead of one love from Bob Marley, that type of stuff. It's fun stuff. So let me ask you this, coming through into present day, right? I mean, you guys have been around for a while and you've navigated the turbulent times of the last 5 years, right? Which we're still trying to get through. How did you guys fare? Is your variety of services and capacity, was that key to making it through to this side? And if so, what sides of it fared the best or are doing the best right now?
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I would say until, and it's really based on the market too, because we are kind of market specific with our LTL operations. I mean, I would definitely say LTL has been more resilient than anything else, going into it. But there still has been some softness in the Pacific Northwest recently with our LTL customers, whereas in Reno, there's not. There's
Okay, so it's kind of spotty. It's spotty there, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, I'll say it's one of the more difficult times. I've been in trucking my entire adult life. I mean, before Elder Logistics, was a sole proprietor that delivered furniture for what became Macy's up here. And
Okay.
and I bought my first truck from this old retired drunk contractor, and it was a big heap that I had to start with a screwdriver. And I mean, it was just a classic Horatio Alger situation. And I did that when I was 22, and worked as a sole prop for about 12 years before I incorporated. I was made to incorporate by FedEx Ground when I was operating there, delivering packages, and I just kind of kept the corporation going and grew it. So I've been doing it more than half my life.
Well, that's awesome. Congratulations, dude. So the LTL now is feeling a little bit soft, though, right?
It depends on the market. I'll say that the Pacific Northwest definitely does. I mean, I think we can kind of blame maybe the consumer being tapped out. I mean, it's a fairly expensive area,
Yeah.
with housing, and certainly interest rates aren't helping with that. That's obviously going to lend itself to a little bit of softness with furniture, because people buy furniture when they buy a new house or move, usually, right? But on the other hand, Reno is doing really well. Portland is faring better, but that's more due to specific customers that we have in that market, and we don't really have substantially in say Tacoma.
Gotcha. So it's depending on the industry, et cetera, it's there. So, yeah, but I mean, that is concerning. You say with the interest rates, et cetera, and, people buy furniture, et cetera, when they buy a new home, or when the interest rates and everything align where they can use their home as an ATM a little bit, right? To
Oh
refurbish.
yeah, and it does seem like this year maybe the average Joe got a little less of a tax return, and that normally juices general freight LTL too. Because that bigger items tend to cost a couple $1,000, right? And that's kind of when the HomeDepot.com shipping picks up through our partner, our customer partner carriers, and it seems like it's. I know that weirdly, it was busier in February even than it is now, which is really unusual for LTL. But I mean, we definitely have a pretty unique insight on the whole shakeout of the Yellow situation too, because we
Sure.
worked for Yellow and Redaway, and also everyone that was a beneficiary of that. And the thing that surprised me a little bit, and I think it is a canary in the coal mine for how the economy is all of our ROMs and higher at these LTLs that we work for. And again, I don't need to name names, but it's everyone that right? Um, they suspected that Yellow going out of business, especially two or three of them, would cause like a sort of COVID like chaotic disruption for about 6 months. Well, the reality of the matter is the furniture got rearranged in about 8 weeks. And really everyone, I mean, certainly some of them are a little bit closer to capacity than others, but that was a little surprising that they were able to sort that out, because we know how infrastructure heavy LTL is. And if you back your line haul up for 2 days, it can take you a month to dig out of it.
Yeah, no, it certainly can. So yeah. So is that a testimony to how light things have become this winter, to just blow through that so quickly in 8 weeks and get it straightened out? Because that's concerning, right? Because LTL, when it starts going into a trough, now you're deep into a trough that's not going to turn around anytime real soon, right?
Yeah. So here's kind of, we always kind of judge how strong the year is, based on when our kind of spike happens in the spring. And there always, no matter what, is an LTL spike. And usually if it's going to be, say, next week, the week after Memorial Day usually does it to them, because they lose a day of line haul essentially, and the backup is sort of baked in. It's a late year, and it is. So we're going to see how it is next week, because that will be a big determiner of where kind of the summer season goes for it.
Yeah, because then you got the summer, and then you got the back to school fall type of stuff, and then you've got the rolling into the holidays, and we'll see how that spike goes depending on this next one.
I do think that, though, on kind of the long term, I mean, that's kind of the short term, but on the long term, as far as the overall capacity of the LTL system, if you kind of make an aggregate of all of the carriers, I think that they're definitely have the ceiling of their capacity overall has been probably lowered by 3 or 4%. Because if you look at Yellow going out of business, that was 9% of the landscape, right? And then afterwards there was, certainly, obviously, the drivers are suddenly looking for a new place to go, but I don't think all of those drivers have been rehomed, neatly back into other LTL carriers. I don't think by any stretch. And then you look at 250 plus facilities operating, and we can debate all day long about the how efficient they were or they weren't. That kind of doesn't matter. But the point is they were operating, and now they're not. And then you hear about the big LTLs talking of, well, we've expanded our terminal network by acquiring new buildings. But what we're really seeing is sort of more of a shell game than a pure expansion, right? Like you look at down in Portland, I know that XPO is moving to the old Redaway building, which is it's the biggest building in Portland by far, but they're not adding it in addition to their old building. Right. So at some point, if you can get new, bigger buildings, but if you haven't replaced the manpower needed to run it, then the overall capacity of it has to be down. And so when demand comes back, carriers like us will be needed more than ever, because it's sort of like you've shut the equivalent of one container terminal down on the West Coast. And it's just not coming back unless somebody chooses to completely, recruit all the way into it, but that's a pretty big undertaking.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah. So you're that needed capacity for that spike when it comes back and starts growing. That's excellent stuff. I really appreciate your insights on that, Scott. Hey, where are people going to learn more and like book all of your extra capacity by the end of today?
Well, I mean, you can certainly find me on LinkedIn. I'm there. I would love to connect, and I like chatting with people on there too. Our website is www.elderlogisticsinc.com. And if you're interested in working for us, we're like anyone else, we're always looking for good drivers. You can apply on our website. You can reach us. You can reach me through LinkedIn, via message, and I'd be happy to share my email. There's also links on our website for sales inquiries and so on and so forth.
Fantastic. Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning into FEI, Freight Executive Insights. And Scott, man, I can't wait to talk to you again here soon. I'm going to follow up and find out how your week goes next week, right?
Sounds great.
We'll find out where things are going. Peace and love, my friend.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.